Well, Sock, here we are. Round one complete, and there's humpings everywhere you look. There's more humpings on the rugby league field than a horny puppy at a dog park that hasn't been desexed yet. How are you feeling, mate? How are you feeling? Talk to me. Socko on a Sunday, coming at you loud and proud with a note on the wall.
Well, mate, I'm feeling violated after watching that last game. I mean, that first half, regrets I have a few, one of which is not having a Melbourne player on my side to start this year.
None of them?
None. Not a single purple jersey, mate. So, mate, look, good weekend, like some closer games this weekend, obviously, and then a couple of blowouts in there. 2 fadings to start the year, which
2 fadings
always makes it interesting. How do you see it, mate?
Well, I saw it through a Parramatta fan perspective, and that is a nice little segue into our theme music this week. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. They talk to me. Yes, that's right, guys.
We can't really hear it that much.
Voices in the head. Voices in the head. I will say, that first half, not sure about yourself. I had to stop the fight. I went for a bit of a walk around the local park, mate. Came back, had a shower. Pretty good signs from Parra in the second half. Actually won the second half, so nothing to worry about, right?
Well, last try wins, right? Isn't that how backyard footy was played?
Absolutely, mate. And obviously you and me had some great battles in the backyard, you being, 3 times my weight. That's overs. 2 times my weight and 2 times my height. But that is not important for our viewers today. Let's get into the week that was, Samuel. I want you just to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then we'll move into a few of the, game breakdowns, including the slaughter, not to be confused with Jesse's slaughter, that we have just seen. And then we will deliberate. Well, we'll just share each other's head noise when it comes to trades at 11:01 a.m. tomorrow. What worked well for you this week, mate? Talk to me.
Mate, loved having the Arthur's Walsh combo. We kind of called that out early in the group chat. I remember you putting that video content up there. It was great to watch live on a wet track, no less too, right?
Yeah.
So like both those guys, Arthur's 94, Walsh 95, like that was exactly what you wanted. Like Arthur's is a steal, obviously, where he's priced at. So mate, awesome stuff there. Tommy and Rubes back together again. When you get one, you get 2, baby. When you get one, you get 2. Awesome shit out of the boys at Manly. 113 for Tommy, 86 for Rubes. And then, mate, I'd like to give a shout out to the Nuffy forward rotation. Look, I know Payne's obviously gone large the other night, but mate, May and Horsburgh holding down the fort on their own. 78 for May, 61 for Horsburgh. Mate, love what I'm seeing from those boys up front, and I think that's where the money is in the front row forwards this year.
Yeah, the front rowers really stood up, didn't they, this weekend? AFB going for 90, Payne Haas going for, what ended up being a 49-minute ton, probably one of the most ludicrous tons of all time. Well, Satilio Tupanua had something to say about that. Glad we let him go. Why did we let him go as a Roosters fan? In terms of what worked well... Sorry, mate, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, how was it for you? What did you think?
Yeah, in terms of my good, there was quite a bit of good, actually. I'll echo what you said about Walsh. That was good in slippery conditions. As we said on the stream on Friday night, Gladys Berejiklian obviously willing to spend more money on the totties at the SFS instead of the surface, given it was slippery in nature. So Walsh's 95 was fantastic for me. Had a couple of really good other scores. Jermaine Asako. Tell you what, mate, when he went over for his second try, I'm surprised that my landlord didn't call me and say, "You've lost your rental bond, son. You have gone off deluxe here in North Bondi." So that was great. 96 from him. Obviously, Turbo. That was fantastic. Not incredible not to have the C on him, as I had it on Team A. Could have got really ugly with 20 to go when he was on a ton already. Finished with 113. We'll take that. Surprisingly, only in 30% of teams as well, Socko. What do you make of that? And then in terms of other good performances, Dill Lucas with a 75. That was grouse. Rob Toyer, the truth, Tower
The
7
truth.
truth. He was brought into my side on a whim at the last minute, 90 from him. Greg the Leg Marju, 83, probably robbed of a 120, courtesy of Mr. Leggy. Grab him best. And that's about it, mate. That's about it. Skelton line break try, 62. Probably unders realistically, but it was a bit of a poo slinger. So that's the good. And you think if you stop the podcast there, we had great weeks. But the reality is, guys, in Supercoach, you never really have a great week because there's always a problem to solve or to sort or to think about tonight. Where did it all go wrong for you, Samuel?
Mate, I think we can start up front in the engine room with number 9, Peter Mamazelos, right? That was a bit of an abomination. 37 in 70 minutes of football. That's
0 runs. 0 runs.
Yeah, 0 runs. But I was concerned about him coming out of trials. That was worse. And then probably, mate, look, Seyfarth had high hopes for him, obviously getting big minutes there on the edge. He's gone for 36. So, there's something to be said there. Obviously, look, a couple of penalties, a couple of errors in there. That's probably what I've disliked most. And maybe Preston, obviously only going for 49. Dogs didn't use him too much, but we'll touch on that later in the pod.
Well, yeah, we will. Although you did mention Seyfarth, and Ian Stanley chimes in. How are you on this Sunday, Mr. Stanley? He says, Seyfarth, at best, a slow burn to 550k. Sell via Lucas Jewell to a Howarth Arthur's Tamale. I believe that's what he's looking to do. Any point holding on to Seyfarth, you reckon? Yeah, I do, mate. I mean, what did he get? 36?
36.
Look, early error, drop ball. Only carried it 3 or 4 times after that. Went off for an HIA. It was a low-scoring game. I think he's worth another look. What do you think?
Yeah, mate, look, I'd definitely hold him for this week. He's only missed his break even by about 8 points. So, it's not a panic station yet by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure once we get to the ugly for both of us. But, look, definitely hold him for another week. I think there was a bit of discombobulation amongst the Tigers, settling into, obviously, new players in the structure. That was the first time we've seen Jerome wear the 7 there. I'd give it another week at least just to see what it looks like. If he keeps doing errors, not looking for work, then okay, yeah, probably better value in that 2RF position.
Yeah, discombobulated your bank account this month so far. The gibberers will know that Sam posted a screenshot of Kyle Flanagan anytime, and we're after an update. We want answers. We want information. Sam, to date, you'd spent $835 on entertainment for the month. Can you please reassure us that it is now into the 4 figures after Saturday night soccer was at his best last night?
Well, mate, look, the Oaks got an absolute workout there, terminal behind the bar last night, but that's neither here nor there. Mate, yeah, look, that's for me, Nathan Cleary playing the week before, had to get some money in on his player performance, as you know. We're always willing to put a bit of money where my mouth is. So, mate, that got up, and I've had a few other ones get up. So, yeah, I'm well up for the start of the year for round 1, which is nice for a change. Something I can't always say.
It's all downhill from here, baby. It's all downhill from here. Hey, can I get a fuck the bookies?
How'd you go, mate? I saw you were dishing out some free bets to the group. How'd you run it in?
Yeah, we absolutely rinsed the pricks this weekend, didn't we? 5 from 6 on old RTN's tips. Yeah, you got monkeys in the old control room there at Tab trying to set the lines. If you guys are watching, keep going. Keep whoever was right on those lines this weekend about Kelma Tuolangi, about Luciano Leilua, plotters of note. Keep it going, boys. We'll just keep cashing in, and you can keep paying us out. In terms of the ugly, Sock. Well, sorry, just to I guess go back to my bad. Personally, not to be confused with my bad bitch. Hopefully she didn't hear that and is not tuning in. Hopgood today, 46. 49. Played long minutes. You know what? Forget Hopgood. We'll come back to him. In terms of my bad. Yeah, Seyfarth, not great. Dewey, 41, probably robbed of a try assist. Nafahu White in a pumping, 43. Watson unders at 55. Not too bad for me overall, to be fair. I mean, Metcalf, he won't see Monday Arvo, that's for sure. Tom Duffy, unders in a drubbing. Dimitrik, unders, only 15 minutes. A few problems to solve there, but finished up with 12.46 for the week, which is, you'll take that round 1. I think last year my round 1 score was 980, and then my round 2 score was 820. I was coming 50,000th by the end of round 2, but then didn't leave the top 1,000 after round 8. How'd you finish on the week, mate?
Mate, yeah, look, same horror story as everyone else, right? The Lumet horror show. Fortunately, that's been erased by having Iongi in my flex, which was a popular preseason sort of option there. I saw a couple of coaches having. Mate, I've gone for 1182. So, you know what? Look, I had the captaincy on Walsh. Went for a bit of a pod play there. Figured there'd be a number of people having it on turbo, something like that. So just thought I'd do that before I checked. That was before I checked the Bureau of Meteorology, though. So, question marks deluxe. But, mate, yeah, look, 1182, some really poor selections from me there. Shout out to Dylan, actually, just for a second. He had some questions about whether Zach Hosking. Yeah, look, mate, let me tell you, mate, I have more questions than answers for you, mate. Much like you waking up on a Sunday morning, more questions than answers are the order of the day. So, mate, look, shout out to you for tuning in, Dill. Mate, it's good to hear you. A long time watcher, first time caller. But, mate, yeah, Hosking is there, and he will be first pick next week.
Hey, listen, guys, they don't want tuning in. If you're not waking up on a Sunday morning with questions, well, you haven't asked enough the night before. Moving into the games of today, let's start with what's fresh on our mind. So, yeah, in the end, pretty good score for you. I think the par is probably around that 1150. Anything above that, you'd be pretty stoked. But anything under that, guys, it's round 1, ain't it? It's round 1, ain't it? It could always be worse. Moving into today's game, Sam. Well, today's game, I should say. The one that Para won the second half of. I'll just rattle off a few scores, let these wash over you. Maybe put the aircon on if you're a Melbourne fan or an owner of any of these blokes, I should say. Ryan Pappenhausen with one of the great belliages of all time, except Blocker Roach thinks it's a blonde mop. 133. Nick Meaney, 99. Shout out to the Tab for putting his line way too low. Munster, 91. Is that someone we can move, Metcalf to, if you got the bank? Yeah. Did you like what you saw from Munster today?
Mate, look, I actually had this conversation. I was having a conversation earlier today with my own flesh and blood, my brother, about Munster. He had dill bags in there pre-game. And I sort of said, look, mate, I think your upside is way better with Munster. Obviously, Para a bit out of sorts without having Moses there. So if anyone was on dill bags, I think that's another option as well as Munster there. It's not just a Metcalf trade. It's for both. Mate, love what I saw. He was moving. He was running. He was bringing people onto the ball. He was at his crafty best. It was a one-on-one strip on guess who? Kelma Tuolagi. Just at his scheming best. Absolutely love what we saw from Munster today, and well-deserved almost ton from him.
Yeah, Sam and I, we tend to commentate the games via text to one another. And, we have a bit of an ongoing bit where if, someone that we think is, got a bit of a brain fade in them does something dumb, we'll just text each other drink or, a beer emoji or, insert hilarious joke here. And I'll tell you what, guys, watching Kelma Tuolungi plot his way through today, I was hammered by about, 20 minutes into that game and it didn't get any better.
Yeah, mate, I think Jimmy Brings got a couple of orders out of your team, didn't they, just to finish it off?
Speaking of Jimmy Brings, our top scorer of the week, the team's name is Over the Cap, and clearly you are over the cap with the score that he put on this week. Shout out to you, Curtis, of 1367 fame. I did reach out to Dobbs in the chat, baby, Dobbs in the chat. I did reach out to Curtis a little bit earlier. He's out to dinner tonight, and I don't blame him. I hope that he's out there having one of the great feasts of all time because, son, you've earned every last bite. What do you reckon about that, V? How happy would you be with 1367?
Oh, mate. I think I'd fall out of my chair and, maybe just curl up on the floor for a bit before, regathering my consciousness. Mate, that's an unreal score. I'm not sure who he added his team. Did he have any words for you, Reese, about what selections he'd made this week or anything that was kind of unique that other people maybe didn't have?
Well, I did actually ask him for comment. and all he said was this. Full credit to the boys on a good week, and we roll on to round 2. Cheers.
Love your work, Curtis. Love your work.
Good on you, Curtis. Curtis, mate, I'll hit you up. As we know, guys, or maybe we don't know, it has been announced via IG. The top scorer every week will get a Jimmy Brings delivery of their choice. Now, if you're not located in Australia, geez, what do you reckon, V? What's the option there? Do we, send them a gift voucher for Costco or something like that?
Oh, mate, how about if they're not in Australia? How about we pay for their NRL live streaming subscription?
Yeah,
right? You have to access it somehow, right? So if you're up in the north of the UK and you're an avid league watcher and you get amongst the Supercoach for the Southern Hemisphere comp, then mate, let's get them their subscription paid for.
Congratulations, Curtis. You got a drop of your choice coming your way. And as Boxzilla, shout out to you, Boxzilla, one of the great gibberers. Honest words right there from Curtis. And what more could you ask for in a victory speech? Just gave full credit to the boys, played the full 80. Full credit to the fans for coming out 1 week at a time kind of stuff. That bloke is destined for big things. Moving back through the rest of that game, Socko. Jack Howarth with an 89, 2 try assists. He must have palmed off Ronald Volkman, I think, on that side a few times. Yeah, 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 19 runs as a centre. I mean, yeah, 426K. That's going to look like a really juicy downgrade / sideways trade from an Alex Seyfarth of the world, isn't it? I mean, they have a bye next week and then play Penrith after, so you can chill on it for a little bit. But fuck, we already know how his class though, isn't he? He was unstoppable today. Yeah,
like mate, I think having those players is is a great option there. They get a buyout early, so you're probably going to get some longevity. You don't have to worry about round 7, round 8, round 9, round 10. Something coming out of the blue and biting you. So you probably bring him in round 4 just before he price rises. See if you can't make some cash elsewhere, or as you said, if you need to downgrade, then that's the play.
Yeah, and as we always say, if you need to make some fast cash, just go and knock on some doors. Eli Katoa, he pumped out an 80, shocked me, including a line break try. Eli Katoa, obviously one of the great targets of all time in the second row there. Josh King with a 70, Xavier Coates with a 70. That will trap a lot of people, I reckon. Coates, you doing 70 there. He's not really an option there, guys. Harry Grant, probably a little bit unders, 56. Got the early shower of doom. You'd probably hope that he goes a little bit more in those situations. Connor Watson scores 55, so not really much to write home from at hooker. I think Tom Starling was the top scorer in that position, wasn't
he? Yeah, I think it was. Look, mate, like Harry's always going to be your gun and what you aim for towards the end of the year. But mate, no real attacking stats other than the try that he sort of followed up through with. Normally he's getting something around those posts there. Melbourne grinding away on the line, and he throws a deceptive little ball. So he's only run for 59 metres. Probably shows you that the points were coming elsewhere for Melbourne today. Sort of seemed to be 1 or 2 punts off the ruck, not through the middle necessarily. So,
mate, they were doing what they wanted in that first half, weren't they? They anytime they shifted, the Para falling off tackles, Volkman's kicking the ball on the 4th, turning it over. They're under pressure. It was fill your boots season for those edges and those outside backs. Everyone apart from Sean Bloor, who only pumped out a 49. A question here comes from DJ7. Interesting question, re Munster and Dill Brown. So, Munster 91, Dill Brown 79. Both actually had 3 try assists. Brown in a team that got pumped. If you're a Dylan Brown owner, are you worried, not so much about the score, but by the fact that Para looked pretty terrible today and there may not be a hell of a lot of upside? Or do you like that second half from Para where I think they actually did, turn it up a little bit and Brown took control? Where would you sit on that question, Munster versus Brown?
Mate, yeah, look, I think my issue is just that, obviously removing Gutherson, which was kind of, a very consistent in their attack, right? That was a consistent thing. You've kind of changed that spine now with Iongi there. You then lose Moses, Volkman, questionable decisions. That's putting a lot more pressure on Dylan Brown than he probably even had on him last year to perform when he's filling in when he's the main guy. look, I kind of think that, you got way more upside with Munster. Sure, you're going to have those games where he's not the scoring dude at Melbourne, kind of what Harry Graham went through today. The points are elsewhere.
Good point.
But,
good point.
Mate, I actually don't necessarily like what I saw from the Eels today, like still in that
Really?
second half. Yeah.
Oh,
mate,
I'd say, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know. I just feel like the game was gone. Melbourne had already gone to sleep. Like, yes, they fought back, but like Melbourne were going through the motions out there. They started making errors they weren't making the first half. Like, totally different ball game. Sure, they pulled something out at the end there and something to take into training next week. But, mate, yeah, I don't even think it's a question whether you're Munster over Dillbags.
Yeah, I mean, Melbourne are just going to have far more attacking upside throughout the year, aren't they? And as Keith mentioned, Munster's probably a better player than Brown. If I've got Brown, I'm probably holding him. I mean, to still pump 80 in an absolute thumping.
Yeah,
you're happy with that. He has that duel as well. That may come in handy. Yeah, I wouldn't panic straight away. He's not going to lose any cash there, Dylan. Dylan chimes in again. Considering Melbourne won 50,000 to 0, and Munster only scored an extra 15 to 20 than Dill Brown. If anything, only makes me feel better about Dill Brown moving forward. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what we said there, isn't it? Who do Para play the next few weeks? Let me have a quick look at that, V. You've got West next week on Sunday Arvo. Fucking hell, that might be an absolute points fest. That two teams that can really, really fold under question.
Thick and fast. Put them on thick and fast.
Yeah, they play West, then they play the Dogs. That's not a great matchup. Then they play Manly. That game's at Four Pines Park. We'll get into Manly in a second. Then they play your Saints. Then they play Canberra. Then they play West. It's a pretty mixed draw to start. Yeah, I mean, you probably just write that. Do you? I mean, how many teams do we see get humped this week? Do you reckon they're all just saying, it's a round one write-off type thing? Or do you believe that there's a chasm, one of the great Grand Canyons developing in the competition already?
Yeah, I mean, look, like we saw games get away from teams and then them pull it sort of back towards the end, right? Like if you kind of take into account the Dragons game, which we'll touch on, right? Look, there definitely were games where, there was a respectable scoreline, but definitely like between the top and bottom teams, like it's just night and day. Like how is a Parramatta, especially without Mitch Moses, ever going to go with like a Melbourne, Penrith, Sharks, like Broncos? Like I think Brisbane really cemented themselves back this week, like this weekend again, like with their humping of the Chooks. Hate to give you some PTSD for that one, but like you've kind of got these four teams at the top, and then it's the also rans behind them, or at least that's how it feels at the moment.
Yeah, the Waz, the Cows, the Chooks, and the Eels, they all looked absolutely terrible. And if I'm owning anyone in their opposition over the next few weeks, I'm licking my rugby league chops because that really shows no signs of turning around, at least not for the time being. I mean, we saw that with the Titans last year, right? Like they got pumped a couple of times early and took them a while to kind of get going. Teams tend to like market correct kind of throughout the year, but really important, guys, to hunt those early matchups if you can. I mean, you're obviously not going to completely trade out all 26 players in your team to find them, but yeah, there's something to note. Like if any of you guys are underperforming, like Safehar's a good example, V. He's on that right edge of the West team. We saw Eli Katoa, Nick Meaney, Will Warbrick just run through deluxe today. So that's probably, you want to keep him next week when they play Para, don't you?
Look, you'll give him another go. He only missed break even by 8, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of final scores in that Para game to touch on. Isaiah Voldemort Iongi, Voldy, the guy we all love. I thought he held his gloves up today. I mean, not a fantastic situation to step into on club debut. But let me read a couple of stats out here for you, V, on Voldemort today. He had 23 runs, which was 32 points in Supercoach, 6 tackle breaks, and a line break and a try. So that is all up 32. Yeah, that's 38 in base power. So assuming that that's a consistent thing, well, he's 200k unders out the gate. We saw him sweep left and right. We saw him score a nice try in the 70-odd minute, which I love. I love when, teams are still trying towards the end, and I know we keep talking about it, but Para really did seem to kind of it wasn't 100-0, put it that way. It was only 56-18. But yeah, I really like what I saw from Iongi. We saw enough in the trials to suggest that he's probably got that upside, and it was realised today to pump a 64 in a rugby league humping. That's good signs, isn't it? You're happy as a Iongi owner.
Yeah, mate. Look, I was pretty stoked to see. You can't question the effort. I think there were a number of times, kind of in that first half, where you could kind of see the shape, and they had him in the right shape. But just you had a Melbourne defensive outfit who was really good, right? He's going to get those attacking stats next time. He's going to be able to get that ball away against a more middle pack team. Someone that probably isn't such a cohesive defensive unit. I agree. 38 in base and perfect. His upside's there. He's got the individual brilliance. He looked threatening. Yep. Focal point of their attack moving forward. I think. He's a great selection if you have him.
Well, really interesting if he can get going against West and then the Dogs next couple of weeks, because it could mean one of the great price rises of all time. Pappenhausen pumps a 133 today. Paps is only 600K, 616. So again, the same kind of thing. There could be that Iongi to Pappenhausen trade on the cards pretty early if it all kind of works out. So yeah, geez, let's hope next week's an absolute cow up. 40 to 38. Next comment here kind of parlays into our next bloke that we're going to look at. Brad and Sally Ferguson, how are you? What a lovely couple. They both love Supercoach. G'day, Shaggers. Well, hey, you're doing the shagging around here, mate. The craziness of Supercoach footy remains. It's safe to say Hop Great may just have reduced to Hop Good again for me. Now, Brad Ferguson actually done a number on me in our Gibbers 150 head-to-head. So good on you, Brad. 1-0 for you, mate. Hop Good today. How many minutes did he play, V? You reckon he came off for a little bit?
Yeah, mate. They spelled him briefly for about 5 or 10 minutes there. He kind of came back on around the 70th, 75th minute mark, something like that. I'll just bring it up here. Where was the play?
Yeah,
he got spelled for a bit. So I just kind of sit there and I think, look, he was still coming back from injury, right? He looked gassed. There were points where he was bent over, and he's obviously trying his heart out. So, look, you give him another week or two just to see what happens. So, again, an offloading god against the Melbourne team, it's probably not gonna end pretty right for his score.
Yeah, 31 tackles, 5 missed. That just shows he's in a dishwasher in the middle there. I mean, it was just it just got ugly for Para pretty quickly, pretty early, and poor Hopgood is shooting out of the line. Tough to handle in that mode. So 31 tackles, 5 missed, 1 tackle break. He did get the offload going with 3, but only made 13 runs is still pretty respectable. Did note that was doing a lot of distributing, and there was one set I noted where he touched the ball 3 times, turned a couple of blokes under. It just couldn't really get into the game, could he? Para were just pinned so far into their own half, especially in that first half, that you're seeing a lot of outside back carries. Lomax, even him, he couldn't even get going. Really, for Para. So again, like with Seyfarth, Hopgood, great matchup next week. Probably a dry track out there at Commonwealth as well on a Sunday arvo. Just haven't looked at the weather forecast, but optics would suggest it is. Not his game, but if you can still pump out 55 in a pumping, you'll take that. Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a couple of runs there too that he's been credited with where it was an offload that went out to the back to him and he caught it, immediately swarmed, right? He's made a meter. It was just not his day. Go next. I think you've got other problems that are probably bigger than him to fix over the next round or two anyway. You pick and stick for 4 or 5 rounds. Just see what happens there. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to point out to everyone. If you've got these 600, 700K guys like your Nickos, your Hopgoods, your Prestons, you name it, you got to have faith in them. I mean, wasting trade on going from someone like a Preston who can, he'll do 50 in his sleep. Hopgood, same thing. Moving him to someone else who can also do the same thing. It's burning. The trades we need to be making at this time of the year are getting on the right cheapies. That's for sure. And we'll get into that in a second. Not really much else from Para there. Lomax, 47. Love to see that. That'll bring him down by a couple 100K, right for the picking at some point. Charlie Geimer, a pretty hype cheapie, 23. That's probably, again, the danger that's starting with these 232, too many of these 232K guys, excuse me. Can't even speak word of the Queen here. That's the danger starting with them. Too many of them. 23 from him. Where do you go now? I mean, you kind of hope he's got to get the minutes, which he might, because Kelma drink Tuolangi, 22 of the best, and one of the easiest unders bets on player performance of all time. Shout out to Double for offering him up. Riley Smith as a 198K rookie, hooker, 17. Look, you write off a lot of these scores, probably cause the drubbing, but not too much to write home about. Para there, was there, Sam?
No, I think, look, if you watched that trial against the Tigers they had and kept Kellner in your side, you've done this to yourself. We watched that trial, right? You and I, we both had thoughts after that was not a good performance, and it was just replicated today. So, yeah, look, Geimer minutes, question marks. I flirted with the idea of taking him to the dance in the preseason. Didn't get the minutes for me in the trials. Didn't take him. Glad I didn't. And I think, yeah, look, there's not too much to write home. Just go again next week and reassess the Paraguays.
Moving on, Bailey Hughes chimes in. How are you, Bales? One of the great gibberers. Got unlucky with a Matt Timoko VC play in Vegas. Robbed of a try assist, and Bailey's actually been on a hunger strike since Vegas. So, hey, mate, the round's over. It's not coming. Go for feed. He says no plans on trading next week, but the one who caught my eye as a must-have by round 3 is Tommy Gilbert. Tell you what, you and me, we both love Tom Gilbert, don't we? Just generally as a footy player, fucking tough.
He's got that dog in him.
He's got a dog, dude. Yeah. You just know that he's probably from buttfuck nowhere in central Queensland. He's been raised by a house that's got maybe a bit of lead in the water system. You name it. Mount Isa, look into it. Flint, Michigan, even. Where's our taps? Change the supply. Where's the investment infrastructure? Yeah, he's a tough bastard. Basically, he loves a tackle in the middle. That was all base for him as well on the weekend. I believe it was 64 in base in just as many minutes. Definitely one to keep an eye on, but worth a watch another week. That Dolphins rotation was a bit off given the outs they had. I think there was an in-game injury to Saifidi as well. Finafiliaki went off at some point. But yeah, Bale's all over it. He's priced at 40-odd, 44, I believe. But if he can pump out 60s, that suggests 150K Cathgro, Sam, and that's someone to bring in, isn't it?
Mate, you know me. I love chasing a bit of money early in the season. Try and get me to my guns. So, I'd look to bring him in. He's great. He's an excellent player to watch. So, nice to have in your side as well.
Speaking of extra players to watch, let's move into yesterday's games. We'll start off with your thoughts on, in case the chat isn't aware, Sam is one of the great St. George Dragons fans of all time, a long-suffering Dragons fans. But when we played each other in the 2011 Grand Final, I'll tell you what, I received a call at the Hooter from a very visceral socko. And so you should have been, mate. That was one of the great nights of your life in 2010. How did you feel yesterday watching a few of these Dragons players, mate? Tui Plotu did well. Gutherson went well. Holmes went well. Little went well when he came on. Good signs. General thoughts?
Mate, I think the bones are there, right? The bones are there. You can kind of see what Flano was trying to do in the preseason. Little coming on and doing 69 in 26 minutes is, is that the best PPM we've seen, out of a bench hooker? Probably. Look, that was one of the all-time performances, I think. Having Ryan Couch in there, and apologies to anyone who may have picked him up in the preseason as a cheapie. If you were hoping for some cash there, you will be missing out.
Too soon.
Yeah, mate, look, our rotation was fried from that injury. You had guys playing longer minutes than they normally would. T. Couchman going for 69. I think
nice.
Yeah, nice. Emre Gula also going for 53. Both played longer minutes than they probably should have. Mate, bones are there, but disappointing result, and the game really got away from us, and then we just brought it back to the death, right? So, yeah, some issues.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You're completely right about the minutes. Like those Couchman and Gula scores are somewhat inflated. Hamish Stewart, 198k, 42. He's someone to keep an eye on, but word of Clemmer. I know you're very excited about the arrival of David Clemmer. But
it's not like we've got any guns in reserve grade by the name of like a 50 Tonga or anything like that. Justice for Loco, bring him into grade.
Here's a question that'll wind you up, Socko. Any chances Finau comes in for Figai?
Mate, if you can make it happen, Boxzilla, mate, I'll tell my girlfriend to leave, and I'll be coming home with you, mate. That's my dream, mate. I'm a Finau apologist. He had a great game in reserve grade, the game before, I should say. So yeah, mate, would love to see it. Figai, I don't think will last, but I think more than likely we'll get Tyrell Sloan on that wing if there is to be a chance.
Oh, great! Again, 6 of 1.
Sorry, now the kids are crying again. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Hey, they may be crying, but at least they're going to be fed because we rinsed those bookie pricks this weekend, Socko. And rinsed you as well. Tuipulotu on the left, 128 of the best. That left-hand side Saints attack was beautiful. I mean, there was I believe a disallowed try at the start there, wasn't it? But the shape that they had, with Ilias showing the ball like a wand, then out to Plano, Holmes, Holmes, Gutho, Tuipulotu. Whoever's that left winger for Saints this year is going to, it's Tuipulotu, but he's going to have an absolute field day more often than not, isn't he?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be our dominant side, right? We didn't really attack too much to the right. Actually, quite similar to what happened with Canterbury, right? Like both sides, sort of right side, could have caught a cold last night. It was that quiet on their edge, whereas that left-hand side sort of seemed to be where everyone was going. As you pointed out, like Gutho coming in and chiming in looked great. That's probably reflected in the fact that he's gone for 113 himself there. All the good stuff happening around him. Val Holmes is probably the disappointment. Took him a while to warm into the game. The Dogs really shut him out in the first half as well. Look, I think that probably can be repeated. I mean, if Tuipulotu goes again for 100 plus, like he's an absolute must trade in for round 4.
Yeah, and they play. They play South next week. Now, South this week. Sorry, the week gone. You know what I'm saying? They scored. The Dolphins scored 3 tries all down the right. 2 of them were from Osako. Just in case you forgot it at this point. But their left-hand side, their right-hand side defense next week. I don't know who's going to. It's going to be Tass and Graham. That's I think Graham. Obviously, Graham's a pretty solid defender. You've then got Tass outside of him. It's probably not the greatest matchup to bring him in. I probably would prefer if he was running on the other side at whoever they put on. Then he has a bye, and then he plays Melbourne. So yeah, I wouldn't be jumping at Tuipulotu straight away. It's absolutely an option as a fast cash grab. You can just see if he goes over another couple of times, he's going to be one of these guys that's 700k before you know it, and then he can hit the eject button and make some moves elsewhere. I think that actually feeds into a bigger point, guys. Like obviously we're always looking to find the gun cheapie. We've already identified Ayongi as a guy that's going to go from 230 to 550 probably over this season, if not more. Obviously we all want Duffy and the Mamazelis to go well, but just as important as it is to get those guys in, it's also really important to identify who of these whatever, like 500, 450-ish kind of dudes. Yeah, any of these guys who can go on, one of the great rugby league headers of all time. That was kind of my theory going into Osako. I don't like him for round 6 and 7 because he plays Melbourne and Penrith. But I'm hoping, I can abort mission before that and trade him out when he's at 800. And guys like Tuipulotu will be the same. So if I were to give any advice to anyone, it's just make a note of who these guys are that are going well overs, like your Pappies, like your Tuipulotus. Keep an eye on their draws. Find that right time to bring them in. And then also, most importantly, know when to get off. Don't hold on for 1 week too long because they could then lose another 30k, 40k, and you're not selling them at that peak. Does that make sense to you, Sock?
Yeah, mate. No, look, perfect sense. Like I think Something that, obviously with your finish last year being quite up there, I think one of the things that you timed really well was also getting these mid-range guys at that bottom dollar price and seeing that price rise. There was a number for you like Katoa, Crichton, Britton Nickera, like just guys that had kind of, even like that low six, they come down to like low 600s and you jump in at the right time. You're able to make 200 deep Fifi too. Like, you've got plenty of people that are going to be available to you throughout the season, and you need to be willing to make those trades. You can't play it 100% safe all year. You are going to have to try and, time those cash grabs correctly.
Absolutely. And then also know when guys bottom out as well, Socko. We've seen Lomax come and do 30-odd today. Val still did a very respectable 70, but these guys are priced, around that 80. Keep tabs on them, find out when they bottom out before they go on a run, because they're gonna be end of season keeper guys. That's pretty much it for Saints. Nothing really else jumping out at me. Literally Lua. We can avoid all that stuff. Going over to the Dogs, I want to give a shout out to Trent Robinson because obviously this week we played Lake Steep and insert from Massey Cup middle here. And we did that because we let Satili Tupanua and Terrell May go. Terrell May, the Terrell May hour, that'll begin after the sun goes down, obviously. But Satili Tupanua yesterday, Socko, he came off the bench. He scored a double, played in the middle, which he very rarely did for the Chooks. He made 9 tackles, 5 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, and 19 runs for 103 off the bench through the middle. He looked absolutely unstoppable. I thought Saints did quite well to, even get bodies in front of him. But when he was on, the Dogs looked like they were going to run away with it. He was very, very impressive. He's priced at 425K, kind of awkward. But he's another one of these guys, right, that, keep an eye on these next couple of weeks, because he goes over for another try, scores another 60. That 420 blades it up, faggot. That turns into, 600 before you know it, right?
Yeah, mate, look, like, obviously a great performance. I mean, I think his line running, he's probably Britton Nickera light, right? He's kind of that Audi version with his line running. It's always been his best asset. So, for me, I just kind of sit there and I think, look, when the Dogs are on top and he's injected into the game, he's going to look great. My head noise around any Dogs players is obviously Serrato's forward rotation, right? It just differs week on week. Salmon, Kurtman, like just all these guys. Like it's awkward. Like it works for the Dogs, but it's fucking awkward. So for me, Satili's probably, look, unless he goes out and does another 100 next week, all right, I might talk myself out, into it. But I look, great score, but could be a flash in the pan. Wait and watch.
Wait and watch, yeah. Don't chase round 1 points. That's kind of the classic example. But put him in your spreadsheets. And look, to be honest, if you have too many spreadsheets, you can expect a knock on the door from the AFP. But it'll be worth it if you win the 50K, guys, won't it? Let's move through the rest of the dog side. Connor Tracy with 90 Supercoach points. He scored a try. He set one up. He broke 6 tackles. He made a line break assist. And he went for 18 runs, probably led the meters as he always does on a weekly basis. I think he was actually on 78, 80 odd at halftime. I'd already planned, to get rid of 3 people for him, but then only came out in the second half and pumped the 12. Any interest in Connor Tracy there? He has the centre wing fullback duel. May come in handy.
Mate, you might remember, mate, towards the end of last season, I actually I decided to, get the phone book out, give Connor a call, see if he'd come to the dance with me. And, mate, we went for a dance. And let me tell you, ownership of Connor Tracy was probably the worst experience of my life. Absolutely would not own again. Yeah, look, mate, like I went for him for a pod play. Look, he's going to look good in sides against, the Dogs are beating up on. Against better quality opposition, he really struggles. He does seem to float in and out of games. He can have games where his impact is really nullified or he's not really used. So, for me, Connor Tracy's not Supercoach relevant with that score. I know some people might like him as a pod, but Yeah, I think there's better value elsewhere.
Buyer beware, you reckon?
Yeah. Well, once burnt, twice shy.
Yeah. He's on the Tyrell Sloan Memorial Never Again list. Just as I mused to you 15 minutes into that Dolphins game where I said I'm never touching Masako again.
Who happened to go over 2 minutes later and then and then for a second time just to really ram home. Put the chisel away, mate. We don't need this name etched here.
But Socko, it's round one. We're meant to overreact. We've been sitting in the fridge all preseason. We've been watching Gaul. We've been watching Colombo. We're watching, weird ways through, Channel 7 plus watching Steve Smith put on 150. It's our right now to get visceral when we see something that doesn't go our way.
It is, mate. I mean, like on the other note, like another high score out of the Dogs was Kickow, obviously. He spent the night terrorizing one poor Matt Feagai, right? And that edge there. Again, look, Kickow doing 84. He's going to get the minutes in the Bulldogs packs. He's probably, the one certainty, him and Reid Marnie. But I suppose, again, I don't view him as that Supercoach relevant. Like, it's just, it's a big score, looks nice. Don't fall for the trap.
Don't do it, guys.
Don't do it. There's other value elsewhere. Mate, moving through.
Out.
Yeah, sorry, go. No, go.
Just on kick out, is your mind?
Yeah.
Like premiership winner, does all the little 1%ers, inside pressure, kick chase, kind of like in that Liam Martin type mold.
Yeah.
But just never really been Supercoach relevant, is he? He just low volume, high impact kind of dude. He will have these weeks where he scores a meaty. I did think he was playing a little bit wider the ruck, just as Hamole Olakawatu was. They got him one-on-one with Ilias, I think it was, out there a couple of times, which is smart ball playing from Burton and Sexton. But, yeah, not really an option. One guy that is very highly owned, well, not highly owned, sorry, but a popular 2RF option is Jacob Preston. A lot of chatter in the preseason about him, including on Supercoach Late Mail's Instagram. Check it out, guys. If you're not already following the page, please get around us. We just ticked over 1,000 followers this week, and my missus was proud of me for once, so that's good. Preston, 49, all in base, didn't really do anything. Boxilla chimes in and says Presto caught pneumonia out on his edge and was rushed to hospital. Wow, I didn't actually see that from the NRL physio. Thoughts on Preston? I thought he looked good in footy terms, but they shifted to the left a lot, didn't they?
Well, mate, he was a setup dude, right? Like, he just didn't go past Presto. Like, he was a setup dude. And, mate, like, every time he got that ball, he was kind of like, he was bending the line. He was, dragging 3 and 4 blokes with him, stepping out of tackles. Like, you could just see it, right? And it was what created the momentum for then the Dogs to shift left. And that sort of seemed to be at least how I watched it. I think you shared the same sentiments, right? That, like, that was the setup play, work to the right pillar with Presto, and then all the way back left. Like, stretch on Presto, drag 3 in, shift left. So, look, like, probably not the most Supercoach relevant game, but there was a number of half breaks there from him. Like, other games, someone falls off that tackle, he goes straight through. We're talking another 5-10 points. Like, it's just, it's something that, that's not a game to judge him on. I think as the Dogs even out probably both sides of the field, he's going to jag a couple more attacking stats, and you'd be happy with that. I mean, that has to be pretty much mostly base, right? That 49.
Yeah, completely. And, he played 80 as well, which is a great sign. I mean, that's why I actually got off him at the last minute. It just kind of spooked me, but it was Saluka Fafita, another one of our drink players. Preston, that rotation worked out well for him. I don't know what it looks like when Sam of Slug fame, Hughes, comes back next week. One to keep an eye on, but wouldn't be panicking on Preston, just as I'm not panicking on Hopgood. 50 is still, if they can do 50 on a bad day, you'll take it. I mean, it's not obviously value for money, but bigger problems to look at in most people's sides, I'm sure, which we'll get into in a sec. Speaking of problems, Cam Wynn, he chimes in as a long-suffering Eels fan, and mentions not so much a question, but the Eels winning the premiership in 2026 will be more satisfying anyway. 40 years after 1986. Well, that's interesting, Cam. Obviously, you've done your sums, mate. You've got your fingers out tonight, and you've counted, and you've given a really wholesome view. However, mate, that's not what you texted me about an hour ago. You mentioned just like the old days, right, guys? Fooey. Too bad Matto's focused on his big biceps. Maybe if Moses stopped caring about his haircut, we'd only lose by 30. Volkman is a pussy. Keep that same energy, my friend.
Did they put a hill in at Combank with the renovations a couple of years ago, did they? Because that sounds like stuff coming off the hill.
Cam Wynn, he's had enough. He's handed back his membership. He's got onto the one-eyed eel for him, and he said, sacked a lot of them. Sack Riles, sack Lomax. I've seen enough of him. He doesn't have a go. He doesn't have a crack. Doesn't want the jersey. But as we all know, Sock, we might even get out to that game together with old Cam Wynn next Sunday over. That could be vibes deluxe out there in Parramatta. What do you reckon?
Mate, I mean, look, I'm all for it. I think it'll be two attacking teams with no defense. So, let the boys play and let the ball mat sing.
Absolutely. Another question from Cam Wynn comes in. 3 teams getting 50 plus. Well, 3 teams getting humped into the core of the earth in round 1. Could we be seeing a lot more 1,200 points plus points per round? Oh yeah, in Supercoach. Yeah, I think that kind of alludes to the matter we were looking at before, right? In terms of that chasm that's developing. Well, we've seen enough after 80 minutes of footy to suggest that 4 teams are shit. But yeah, I think that's pretty feasible. And this might be the year of the humping. What do you reckon?
Mate, look, for me, mate, I think there just sort of seems to be this fitness, this defensive, this structure gap. I don't know if it's a different coaching. It's probably not what it used to be where, there was teams that could wrestle and teams that couldn't. It's just a yawning gap in, one team gets run over and then the, points just get piled on, right? The damage was done today to Parra in the first 20. Mate, you obviously were at the Chooks game the other night. I'm not sure how you sat through that and felt watching that. But, yeah, look, I think you could see a lot more 1,200-point games, but I also think it's probably guys that maybe aren't as Supercoach relevant or that you might not have that are going to score them. If you look at Melbourne, realistically, okay, you might have Munster, you might have Grant, and you might have Katoa. You're probably not going to have Hughes this year with Nico and Nath there, right? And Moses as well. There's options there where, he could be the main dude. He can put on 120, 130 on his day, as you well know from last year, Reece, as a proud Jerome Hughes owner.
True.
So, yeah, look, I think just because there's going to be more blowouts doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be more 1,200-point scores, right? It's going to be, are these guys Supercoach relevant that are scoring those points, or is it flash in the pants, Satili Tupanuas, who, you probably wouldn't look at twice?
Moving on to Supercoach relevance, Manly.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Sock, we don't need to go into too much detail, but you were a bit occupied yesterday evening. Knock on the door, keep it quiet down there. Kind of Shout out to the noisy neighbour, which is you. But yeah, we saw again another humping yesterday. Actually, you know what? Paddy, how are you, Paddy? Chimes in. Yeah, g'day, boys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Couple of things, Jacob Preston. What happened? Secondly, Sock, mate, when did you get so sexy? Mate, have you got a YouTube account called Paddy, or what's going on there?
Yeah, mate, look, I'm just shitposting on my old... No, shout out to you, Paddy, mate. We're welcome to hear from you. If you keep those compliments coming, you're welcome to hear any compliment. You and I can upset the nosy neighbour again.
Gibber of the Year candidate.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I love it.
So sorry to get sidetracked there, but yeah, Manly. Sock, talk to me. How good was that?
Mate, look, you and I know what Tommy Turbo, Brookie, optics. It's something we
Hill,
often talk about.
Breeze, Curl, Eagle Rock. There's a lot of stuff going on, isn't there? Josh Dugas, the man with the brick, loving home optics. Sorry, continue. I got carried away.
No, mate. Look, Brookvale Hotel was full. The kegs would probably run dry by about 6 p.m. As the fans flooded across the street. So, look, Seagulls at home gets the new look Cowboys outfit. Tommy and Rubes doing their thing. Like, look, I mentioned that for me. That was one of the great things this week. I'm still shocked, and I'm still trying to process the fact that Tommy's only in 30% of teams. Like he's an absolute must when he's fit, and you roll the dice with him because you can't live without him in my books. Like even if you're running 3-gun fullbacks this year, you're probably looking at someone like Ponga, Turbo, Walsh. I'd imagine, if you're using that third flex for a gun fullback. But yeah, mate, unreal to watch the boys. They've had a good off season. How good's Lehigh Hopawade as well? The Lehigh Hopawade Express.
Better than Lego. Yeah, some of these scores look like Australia and Sri Lanka. Terry Evans 126, Tom Trebojevic 113, Jason Saab 107, Hamali Olakawatu 100, Ruben Garrick 86, Toff Sipley got amongst the points. Paseka got amongst the points. And drum roll, please, for our boy, Ethan the Bully Bullymore. Coming off the bench, giving us 42 minutes, but giving us 65 Supercoach Rugby League Saturday night. Points from Brookie. How good was that, mate?
Mate, you know me. I've long been an Ethan Bullymore truther, right? He's someone that I had last year, someone that I pivoted to. Saw it again in the trials. Like you saw him come on and steam onto that ball and just go straight through to run it in 40 meters all the way to home, 44 home. Mate, love seeing that. Obviously, it was just an absolute humping. The forwards run straight over the top of them. That's reflected by Toff Sipley going for 73, right? That's probably a bit of an aberration there. But Paseka, 71. Obviously, that's good to see. There's definitely some signs. I think they've got Nathan Brown to come back to, which might slightly affect some of my Bullymore's minutes, right? But he is definitely one to watch if he's getting more minutes. He seems to have moved up the pecking order there. Yeah,
no, that's what we mused kind of pre-game. Josh O'Shea Alloway, he's out of the rotation. He was playing for fucking Mounties on the weekend. Bullymore came on before Sipley. You got Nathan Brown. You've got Knock Knock, who's out the door. Matt Lodge lingering as well. Time will tell. But hopefully we get a few good weeks out of Bullymore. He'd be a nice little 100k cheeky one at the start with the duel. Thought Olakawatu looked massive. It looks as though they're playing him a little bit wider of the ruck. I'm not sure if you noticed that. He gave Jackson Purdue one of the great steamrolls of all time to score that first try. Just ran over him like you ran over a McDonald's double quarter pounder that's on Ramsgate Avenue. He pumped out a ton, looked dangerous.
Mate, I think it was a live reenactment of you trying to put a shot on me, right? The reverse happens and someone ends up underfoot and it ain't me. But yeah, look, Ola's a gun, second rower. We've loved Ola in the past here. I think something that I find interesting is they really seem to use him a lot more last night than what we've seen in the past. Typically, what we see when you got Tommy fit is they'll start, sort of dummying or using him on the decoy lines. Not so last night. They kind of were willing to give him that shot to go straight over the top of them. Which, if that sticks with Tommy back, he becomes a must-have. I'm just nervous as to whether, they just go back to that shape where it's decoy to Ola, out the back to Tommy, right? That's a worry.
Or use Olakawatu, kind of like they do, or Dogs did Preston yesterday, where they kind of just set up on that right tram line and then fan left.
Yeah,
but
play back left, yeah.
Turbo either side of the ball is... man, I can't believe I didn't have the C on him. I got so vibey with it with Team A. And it wasn't a bad result in the end, but fair income sock. That was almost unwatchable. And I still had him. I still had Turbo. He's still in the team. But I was like, fuck me. I hope it doesn't keep going here. Because, as we always say, is Turbo the GOAT? And we've only seen absolute patches of it. But in terms of just the complete.
I mean, he's the owner of
athlete.
the top 2 highest ever Supercoach scores. So, like, mate, he's got 4 of the top 10 highest ever Supercoach scores. Like, all time, he's like 4 out of the first 10. Like, no other players like that. Tommy is an absolute must. Even, look, he's probably not 2021 Tom anymore, but, like, if he's fit, no question, he's in your team. You don't even think about it. Like, first pick.
Yeah,
like,
and I think you got to have something on him, like a VC minimum most weeks.
Yeah.
Good lessons learnt from round 1. There's just no other bloke like him, isn't he? He's built. He's 6'5", whatever. Agility, speed, toughness, game smarts, passing. He could develop a kicking game. He's not the perfect player, obviously, but unbelievable from him. 113 of the best. Ruben Garrick did nothing for 86, vindicating. Everyone championing him in the preseason. Ben Trebojevic, 47 with a try. As you'll know, he was in my team all preseason until I woke up on Wednesday morning and chose violence and brought Bullymore in. So, how good's that? A couple of questions here before we move on to the Cows and our trade plan, Socko.
Sorry, what was that?
Just a couple of questions before we move on. Dylan Jugas chimes in again. How are you, DJ7? Loving the content, fellas. Hopefully a few more sponsors on board. Can we shout Socko a razor?
Oh, mate, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the free man shakes. Where's Adam McDougall? Like, mate, what do I have to do? Get something nailed up on the wall. I've only been using them for the last year. Like, come on, Mad Dog. We're a rugby league channel. You should give back to us, all right?
Yeah, you're not short of $1 either, are you, doggy?
Only 350 million of them or so, I think.
He goes on early optics, and we love optics on this show, don't we, Sam? Turbo and Walsh both must have. Hard to disagree with you there. Happy to fade KP, and we'll leave that last part of the question because that is ridiculous. Happy to fade KP, Dylan. Jeez, mate. He's still pumped out of 70 odd. No attacking stats. Running off KPP on that right hand side, I was shit scared as a non-owner. I really like KPP on the right there. It gets that right lever out, kind of like an English Fletty Mateo, if you will, lives in North Kellyville fame now. But that's a different story. Sorry, KPP, KP himself. Yeah, where am I going with this? I would be happy to fade KP. I think he's a gun, isn't he? He's someone to bring
like in a low-scoring game, he pulls out 70. Like he is the guy at Newcastle. Like good shit happens off KP. Like it's not even a question about like him being probably like that third choice for me. Goal kicks too. Like there's extra upside with that. We're like you and I are both a fan of a player who goal kicks. It just adds the potential for what did Nick Meaney go for this afternoon, right? Yeah, absolutely plenty. So, yeah, I mean, mate, like, Dylan, I asked you the question about waking up on a Sunday morning and, having more questions than answers. I actually fear for you, mate. I'm worried you haven't gone to sleep since Saturday night, mate.
Yeah. How bad are the winds up on the Sunshine Coast, mate? Is it ex-tropical or Cat 3? Nah, listen, any of our Queensland viewers or Southeast Queensland, Northern New South Wales, fuck, man. Our heart goes out to you, especially those around that Lismore area. You poor bastards, man. But, hey, listen, if there's one thing that we all share in common is, we're fair dinkum Aussies. And Aussies have got grit. Aussies have got resilience. That's the reason we hold our gloves up on the world stage in any regard. So fucking stay strong. Reach out to anyone that's around you. And, yeah, we're all thinking of you, man, throughout this tough time. Cam Wynn reaches out again. He says, Socko, is that footy in the background a rugby league replica or one you took back from your New Zealand rugby tour?
Jeez, mate, I've got a few fans. Jeez, one appearance on the pod and all of a sudden I'm building a fan club. I'll set up a PO box for you guys next time. You can mail it in, all right? We'll do a mailed into Socko segment. Yeah. Life advice with Socko. Yeah, don't take anything that I tell you and use it.
Take it with a grain of salt, not a gram of, Maybe on to the Cowboys, Socko. We'll get through these. Yeah, Paddy's mate. Paddy's. Your alt is one of your biggest fans. Soccer PM.
Soccer PM.
Well, come to think of it, you are in a pretty swing seat there in Mossman. Any chance you can run as a teal?
Mate, look, if the people want me, the people shall have me, right? Mate, I'm happy to go out there and get us all what we're owed. Speaking of being owed, I think I'm owed a refund on one Tom Duffy actually after the score just straight back to the Cowboys game. Mate, he's good gone segue. For 23 of the best. Look, this was kind of you're a close watcher of Tom Duffy, a proud owner.
It's not my fault, mate. 23. I wasn't out there.
What happened? What happened to Tom Duffy?
Well, in all seriousness, Manly had 70% possession for most of that game. The poor kid couldn't really get involved. I thought he held his gloves up defensively. He copped a shot from somebody in the second half, and remember that Jack Cole one last year where he booted it at Magic Round? It looked similar to that optically. So I like that. I kind of like that he wore that. He kind of got on with it and stayed on the field. Shows his toughness. A couple of times, he kicked one dead. He threw one out over the sideline. But, man, he was trying things. It's just really hard to get a gauge on a rookie debutant halfback in a humping, isn't it? Yeah,
look, I mean, right. Again, probably not at panic stations, although I do think if you're thinking Jamie Humphries, there's probably a close watch to team list Tuesday this week. They're, I think, about 130K difference at the moment, right? So, look, I'll let him go again, but somehow I don't think it gets much better against the Sharks at home back up at Country Bank Stadium next week. He's going to have Britton Nicorar, Jesse Ramian, and Sam Stonestreet running straight at him.
Yeah, they're big boys. They're all big boys.
And Purdue as well, right? Look, Purdue, you and I were kind of like, that's our guy in the trials. I don't know if you've kept him in your CT dubs. I have, mate. Didn't play him, obviously. Fortunately, that was one good decision that was made. This you following along at home, Dylan. No, I didn't play Purdue against Manly.
He also didn't play Hosking, so that doesn't say much.
But, mate, look, tough night at the office for the Cows, right? You got Nanai going for 19.
Did he? That's unreal.
Yeah, Nano's done a 19. Tom did an 18. Taulungi, 23. Your highest scorer of the game is Scotty D, our boy, Drinkwater, and Vilea, Viliami Vilea going for 72. But I think the most or the biggest indictment on the side is, you've got your Billy Burns and John Bateman going for 71 and 63 respectively, right? So
yeah. Drinkwater was actually on 0 with about 20 to go. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Who was on 0?
Drinkwater. He was literally on a duck egg, mate. He was on a duck. Maybe not. It was in the second half at some point. It was literally on nothing. Kind of looked like TAB's bank account after this weekend. He skyrocketed to 72. We love Drinky, don't we? We're lifetime owners on Drinkwater Island. I can't wait to have a bit of him this year. He took one of the kicks as well, which is slight alarm bells for Tom Duffy truthers out there. But I think you put that down to Duffy having a cork or something like that. But one to watch next week, because you're right. Like Humphries was stroking him, wasn't he? With the tee, without the tee. Looks like that jersey's his. I think that's a pretty simple 100K decision, isn't it? Especially if the Cows continue to don't look good next week.
Well, I think that kind of touches on our next point, right? I know that you and I sort of were having a bit of a chat back and forth earlier about a lot of people who are sitting there, playing conservative trades, conserve them. I think, though, you face a problem, right? And this is probably exemplified by the Tom Duffy, Jamie Humphries case. Is it too much to do in round 3? At most you're getting 3 trades with your boost. If you're trying to get out of Duffy and into Humphries and you've got some other trades you've got to make, maybe you've gone Stone Street and want Marzu, a couple other plays like that, right? You're going to need trades and you're limited to 3, come the next week, right? So I think someone probably is getting cut this week. And I know you and I were keen to touch on this. If you don't have much else about the Cows game.
Nah, not a lot else to talk about the Cowboys. But yeah, you're right. Like, who are these right guys to get in? And that kind of feeds into the Boxzilla question here. Should we move any cheapies on to another this week, or are cheapies just a hold to round 3? So I prepared a little bit of a list here for you, Sock. These are guys who are cheap and are in my side right now. Rob the Truth Toya 7. He won't be leaving. In fact, I'm happy to play Toya most weeks. I mean, 45 in base power in a humping. Geez, we've mentioned humping a lot tonight.
Something on your mind, Reese.
Yeah. Yeah. So Toya's in my team, and everyone's team, but I think he's playable. So that's something to think about. Duffy, fuck, is that Humphreys? Humphreys probably feels like the safer bet if he keeps the jersey. I just think he's all round probably just a better footy player. That's so hard to say on Duffy, but we've loved Humphreys for a long time. Nafahu White, Dimitric. Okay, so who he's kind of referring to is like your Dimitrics, your Mamos, and your Sandons. A few guys that I mentioned that were around a similar kind of 200-ish K price. Purdue, probably can wait on him given the 20-odd in his rolling average. Jack Goz, want to see him do it again next week. Want to see if he plays 80 next week, or the Piacora rocket theory takes full effect. Tamale, in my side and playable if he's named. I'd play him for sure. Same rule as Toya. We'll pump out 40-odd, 50, low 50 in base power alone. I'm happy to call that one early. Then you move into your Halasemas. It's minutes issue. You got Hubner, who I thought looked pretty good. He played 59 minutes for 40-odd points. Probably like to see a little bit more out of that if I'm being greedy. But, he's there. He's another guy to watch for a week if you don't own him. Shibasaki, probably the definition of, can you do it again next week, mate? Great stuff, 90. But that could be a classic, everyone jumps on round 1 points, chasing round 1 points. Happy to watch him. Then you got Owen Paddy, Riley Smith. Both didn't really get going or get enough minutes. And then Hamish Stewart. So, when you read through that list, I don't know, man. Humphreys and Tamale are probably the only two that I'm happy to move on straight away. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, mate, for me, again, Tamale's, it's probably a team list Tuesday question. I think, there's only probably one player that you're taking out, or, I suppose two that come to my mind is, Tyrone Munro's definitely gone this week, another collarbone for him, he's out. If you're trying to make cash there, you could probably look at a straight swap to a Jesse Arthurs if you don't already have him, and save yourself a bit of cash. But, yeah, look, I think there's probably one or two, there's probably one trade that I'll make this week just to make sure I don't have too much to do next week. I think there's every chance for me that, maybe it is that Tom Duffy to Humphreys trade. I just think there's more upside in Humphreys. I know Wyden's out this week. That probably, again, rejigs South's attacking shape and what's happening there. He's been suspended, but I just think ultimately he's going to be able to deliver better. Wayne effect. I think, you and I spoke about not liking the Cows this year anyway. I think, you kind of cover the Cows cheap by having Purdue. Duffy, you let go. You get a goal kicker in Humphreys, who's a good goal kicker, who just kind of seems like he's more ready for NRL, and in probably a far better system under Bennett's tutelage. The only question around it is, what do they do with Dodd? It is a team list Tuesday trade. Probably not one you're making at 10:01 tomorrow morning. But yeah, look, I'll probably be making that play this week just in order to free me up to make some cash-generating moves the next round and not really have to worry as much about that, and not having enough trades to get all the guys.
All very fair points, mate. I've got, a couple of nuffs. I've just got 3 nuffs in there at the moment. I've got about 180K in the bank. So, I've got enough money there, enough jewels there to move a few nuffs around and target a couple of those guys, namely Tamale. But again, apart from that, nothing else really crazy. I mean, there's probably a case for Crossland. He played 60-odd minutes, shared the field at the same time with Brayley. He's only 40K more than Mamazelis, but happy to probably watch Mamo for another week. I mean, I'm not stoked about it, but I think there's also like a bit of a theory that developed today after a shower that hooker and 5'8", there's so many questions in those two positions. There's Munster aside, maybe Campbell aside. In hooker, Harry Grant 50, Watson 50. There's probably, to me, those are probably the two positions that are not the most urgent for me right now. I mean, there's probably an argument I could move Metcalf to AJ, which I think I'll do, just a bit more of a pod play early in the season, just something different. But yeah, aside from that, I'm looking at, okay, who are going to be those gun cash cow 2RFs, and I'm not sold on any of them yet. And then I'm looking at the same thing in centre wing. Tamale, probably the only one, unless Sheba keeps going. I think the bigger question is, let's look at those guys who are in that 400, similar to that Tuipulotu thing we said before. We've got Connor Tracy, we've got Braden Trindle with the kicking. You've got Tuipulotu, you've got Saab, KPP, Hosking, Arrow, Gilbert, Duncan, Vilea. Now, these guys just have to be given as much attention as the others, but none of them necessary to do tomorrow. I think it's round one, guys. It is what it is. There's only 200 points variance between the top scores and the bottom scores that I'm seeing. So absolutely nothing to panic about in terms of guys who are underperforming. I think it's just really, really important to make sure that the guys who are outside of your squad are in a good role, they're getting good minutes, and they're showing good enough signs. That's it at this stage of the season. And then you move those pieces around the chessboard off the back of that. Forget trading Hopgood, forget trading Watson, forget trading anyone like that. Pay attention to those who are going to make more cash than Socko on a strip pole.
If Paddy's in the joint, I might be able to pay the mortgage. But yeah, look, I think I can see Keaton's just asked, any trade plans this week, a way to watch. Look, I'm much the same as Reese. As I said, look, I may go early on Metcalf. I'm currently running 3-5-8s with the Adam Dewey dual position. I've got KO Weeks in there. I probably can't watch KO Weeks and Metcalf go round at the same time, personally, myself. It's a bit too much of a lottery there. So, look, maybe I go Dewey and, he's probably going to do 40 every week. That's fine. Just for the time being. And then, look, that Tom Duffy to Humphreys trade. But otherwise, look, I wouldn't be trading any of your higher ticket guys, right? Like, you brought them in for a reason. One game does not make their season. Like, they will be okay. And if they're not next week, then you can panic.
Listen, sharpen the knives is what we're saying. Don't necessarily get your pitchforks out.
Stone Street is already on my fork, right? And there's a guy called Greg Marzu who's about to be brought out of the pan and onto my plate, right? The last bite of Sam Stone Street. If he can't do it this week against the Cows, he's a straight swap to Marzu for me, right? Like that's straight away round 3, straight swap for me. Already planned. So, you've got to have a few things ready to go. You're thinking about and spots you want to get to on the field, no different to what the guys out there are actually doing. But
some of them.
That's unless their name's Kelma Tuolagi.
Yeah. Jeez, he's
he actually doesn't know where he is when he's on the field.
He's a few drive-bys on old Kelma tonight. But hey, he made us some money. So, thanks, Kelma, I guess. Couple of final questions here, Sock, for you before we wrap up and, go over lie down. Tyler, how are you, Tyler? He asked, does Tamale have the job security? Well, mate, he's got about as much job security as I did as a 19-year-old. Make it that what you will. That could mean anything. But given Socko's reaction, I think you know what that means. Keith chimed in a bit of a while ago when we were talking about the Dogs. Their defense was brutal. It was. Any funny analogies you want to throw in there? I've kind of run out of steam.
Mate, look, it was a dog day afternoon for the Dragons at the office, right? Like that, the Dogs were just getting 4 or 5 in the tackles. I suppose this is the advantage of the small ball is like when you overwhelm them, you win. Like I feel like against bigger packs like the Broncos, I think we might have even seen this last year. It's a lot less like that. But once they get on top against some of the more middle of the field teams, right? Like they just start to roll on and they're hammering it home. They're fit. They're ready to go. It's very much almost that Penrith defensive methodology, right? Of just like rush and like drown them. I think the stark difference was I don't think Kyle Flanagan or Lachlan Ilias got away one clean kick, without a significant amount of pressure. Matt Burton had probably, enough time to cut up an orange, put a slice in his mouth, then launch the thing towards Matt Feagai. Like Dogs are excellent. They're a well-drilled defensive outfit, but I think conversely, right, like they're not the team that you expect to score a heap of points. We see that. I don't think many people are going to have more than one dog in their team unless, you bleed blue and white.
Absolutely, which neither of us do, so fuck him. Boxzilla asks, can the Rooster replicate losing the first 8 rounds to make the finals? The short answer is no. Keaton chimed in. He said 1554 is the biggest score he's seen so far. He then also managed it as his wife's account. Keith wasn't sure about that. Froggy, which is my alt, he said, I'm a legend. Is there a 1% chance you would go Ponga to Pappy in round 4-ish? A 0% chance, mate, because I don't own Ponga. But, if you're asking generally, yeah, fucking oath. I mean, they've got a pretty good draw, Melbourne. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it's it's as soft as a tub of margarine that's been left on Military Road for 3 hours in January. A couple of final things here. Sock, I guess. More emojis from Cam. He's having a great giggle at home, it seems. Keith asks, Turbo, Walsh, Ponga, and Pappy, who do you not own? Personally, I do not own Ponga and Pappy. Sock, I believe you're the same. And then he also asks, and then there's Kinney. Oh, God, we haven't even talked about Kinney. I forgot about him. Do you want to... How much longer have we got tonight?
Mate, I mean, if you're going to let go, I mean, we might end up with some, poetry night on stream with the way you write sonnets about, your love of Keanu Kinney, right?
Yeah, that's the gibberer after dark hour, that one. And Keaton finishes off by saying, the pod feels like we're at the pub on the piss, gripping questions.
Well, mate, that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed. You should too. Guys, it's round 1. We hope you loved having your footy back. We certainly did. All the best for round 2. And hey, if you like me and you want to drop Metcalf to the airport, we have an opportunity at 11:01 a.m. tomorrow. See you later.